Hello. You hadn't gone live, Johnny. Now you've gone live.
I was just about to. I was
Very
filling
weird.
up my wine glass while the thing
Careful,
started.
you haven't gone glass. Ignore it. Technical issues. We'll go on. Go again.
Good evening. Welcome to the Scottish Rugby podcast, brought to you by the Scottish Rugby blog. This is absolutely plain sailing so far this evening. Good evening, everyone. Nice to see you on the live stream if you are with us. If you are, you'll have noticed a couple of technical hitches that we've managed to get through in the first 3 minutes.
Well, I've started drinking already,
nice
so
to see you. He's back. Cabby's
Hello.
here, thankfully.
Right. That was a lot of fun. It's basically
Possibly our greatest start ever.
We've had worse than that, Johnny. We used to record this on Skype, and then I used to have dial-up internet, so it used to take me till 3 a.m. to upload it to the internet after each episode. So this is nothing.
this is nothing.
So anyway, posted a mean comment about you on every single channel, Cammy.
I wonder who that could be. Because you've done it logged in as me, Johnny. It looks like it actually makes it look like the mean comments about you.
This is why I get a little bit
of all the things.
This is why I get antsy about things that are on Twitter.
Chat, that's That's not the worst. To accidentally post on all the public channels.
Anyway, should we just let's have a nice clean break, and then I can just edit all that bit out. And then people listening, people watching live, this is utter chaos. But at least when it reaches audio format, we can have some kind of like sense of cohesion to the whole thing. So anyway, hello and welcome to the Scottish Rugby podcast. Oh, you swine. Hello everyone, welcome to the Scottish Rugby podcast, brought to you by the Scottish Rugby blog, just by the skin of our teeth. I am Cammy Black. Joining me this evening, we have Lisa Martin. Good evening, Lisa.
Bonjour.
That's a lovely top you've got on as well, Lisa. We'll come on to that later. We've also got Craig Manson. Hello, Craig.
Bonjour. Ça va?
And on his own tonight, the one lone Glasgow voice in the room. So let's see how the agenda goes. It's Johnny McGinty. Hello, Johnny.
Is he frozen there? Is he upset?
He's waving. He's just waving. He froze a little bit there. I wasn't sure whether he was just absolutely furious that John Anderson's left him in the lurch to preview a Glasgow European game.
I'm not as curious about that as about the fact that somebody has got a Toulon top on.
Don't know who that could be.
Well, come on. We'll preview. We'll get around to previewing Glasgow probably about 5 minutes from the end of the podcast, Johnny. Don't worry. It's fine. We'll give it the time it deserves. So.
Oh yeah, we've got all that
anyway,
stuff to talk about, right enough.
We've got lots of Ember stuff to talk about. It's been filling my inbox with all sorts of news. We'll come to that in a moment. So, any of you watching us live, we're on YouTube, Twitter, Twitch. We broadcast live every week, normally Thursday nights. You can also get an audio version of the podcast if you don't want to look at us while you listen to us. You can just listen to our lovely voices, and that's on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and wherever you get your podcasts these days. We've got a fair bit of news to get through. Craig, let's start with Edinburgh because there's no big news happening in Glasgow way this week. We'll maybe give them some time later on in the pod. The big news from Edinburgh, the Edinburgh announced their squad for next season.
Yeah,
somewhat. It seems a little bit prematurely given the season's barely only finished and they haven't got a coach.
Yeah, and you know. I think it's a little bit of they just opened up the season ticket sales as well to current season ticket holders.
You old cynic, you Craig Manson. Are you not suggesting for a second that they've announced their squad in order to drive up season ticket sales? Are you?
What I'm probably cynically saying is that they've announced the squad at the same time as the season tickets go on sale to season ticket holders, current ones, because they are concerned that we're all going, what the hell's going on, and we're not going to renew our season tickets until we actually know who's going to be coaching us and what sort of team we've got together. So I think it's been a little bit of, let me have a couple more beers and I'll be like, oh no, it's all sunshine and light. But I think it's more a fact of they're kind of being a little bit hedging their bets a little bit, maybe.
Yeah, and at least I think the big surprise was. And I don't, we don't know who's made this decision, but Blair Kinghorn is still a fly half, and we thought that was over.
Yeah, that's an interesting one to still have on the cards, but maybe they're just kind of pushing it to see once eventually a head coach comes in, maybe they can make a decision. But maybe Steve Diamond's like, yeah, we'll still stick him at 10. We'll keep that going. But yeah, you never know. The squad being out might be another little taster to put out to potential head coaches and be like, here, this is a squad you could have. Please apply within. So we'll see.
Yeah, but do you think Blair Kinghorn at 10 is going to be an incentive for many coaches, Johnny?
Don't try and goad me, because I'm very diplomatic about Blair Kinghorn. All right? I think, to be perfectly honest, I actually think with the way that the SRU setup works and things, it's a really strange thing to list if they're trying to do it to attract coaches, because I think we probably all expect that at the end of the World Cup, when Hoggy retires, that Blair Kinghorn is going to be Scotland's starting 15. So you've got to think that whoever comes into Edinburgh head coach, whether they want him to be 10 or not, is going to be getting pressure from across the road from Gregor Townsend and his coaching staff to say, no, he's a 15 now. He's Scotland's starting 15 and he will be playing 15 whether you like it or not. So yeah, if you're trying to attract the coach by listing him at 10, it's not really going to work, I don't think.
Yeah. And Craig, in terms of a coach, are you worried that Edinburgh still don't have one? I mean, do we even know if Mike Blair is leaving or not?
No, there's nothing, and I've not heard anything. Maybe some of my fellow Edinburgh season ticket holders, etc., and fans will be able to tell us, but I've not heard that. That the SRU are eerily quiet, and that's, I guess, why maybe that's why they've put out the squad or the update, and they put Grant Gilchrist out, telling everyone to buy a season ticket and how he's proud to be captain and this, that, and the other, which I have no doubt about. But I think it's just one of those situations where we don't really have any news on coach, and you know what happens in a void. If there's a void, people come up with crazy nuclear takes. So maybe they're trying to be careful.
Yeah, I mean, Steve Diamond's an interesting one. I think there is a suggestion, Lisa, that he's going to carry on into the next season a little bit and maybe kind of see things through, or certainly hang around for a wee bit until a new coach comes in. He's got, I mean, for all people, nobody laughs at Steve Diamond. I don't want him phoning me up like he phoned up Robbie Owen and unannounced once. But people kind of, people joke about him, I think, with his brusque nature and some of the run-ins he's had with journalists, but he has had consistency with Sale and done a good job at Sale. It's maybe not they're not regularly at the top of the Prem, but they've certainly not been in trouble. Is that something? I mean, do you think Steve Diamond could come in and do a job, or do you think kind of with Cockrell, we've already had that kind of figure in Richard Cockrell, and they maybe need something different?
It's hard to say, because you see the way that Murray McCallum and a lot of the Worcester boys have spoken to him about him before and stuff, and have said how excited and good that he is to be to work with. So he is, I mean, he's a good person to have around. As to how that's going to work when someone comes in, are they going to have a bit of a crossover and it's a bit of a handover? It's an odd situation, because you've never really heard of this happening elsewhere or ever before. So I feel it's a bit kind of like fumbling in the dark, and we'll just see what happens. But I think he's different from Cockrell in terms of maybe not his coaching style, but I think his man management. You hear some absolute horror stories of Richard Cockrell in meetings and what he's calling boys and just his general language. And I think in any other industry, I think he would have had, a weekly meeting with HR penciled in. So I'm happy to see Steve Diamond is probably a bit better than that. But I don't really know what to make of it, because as a player, how would you feel knowing that, this guy's going to take us through pre-season for the next however long, and then may or may not stick on in some sort of capacity, but he's not going to be a head coach. So they'll listen to him as a head coach, or I don't really know, to be honest. That was a complete faff of an answer, but get something out of it as you will.
Well,
really.
I think that's the thing. I think that's the thing, though, is it's a faff of a situation, Johnny, that we've got Steve Diamond coming in and galvanising the boys, but that's all well and good. That's my Steve Diamond. That's my tip.
I was going to say, is he from Wales?
Yes, he's going to phone you up and tell you that's not what he sounds like.
Sale's almost in Wales.
Yeah, thought so.
Nearly. But I mean, I can see both ways. He does, as Lisa said, Johnny, he does clearly have a very galvanizing effect on the squads that he coaches, and the players always hold him in high regard. And to a certain extent, maybe that's what Edinburgh need to feel more like. They've done a lot of work behind the scenes. We can, as much as we laugh about the gazebo that they play in, that there is more of a club feel around Edinburgh now that they've got their own home, and maybe they need a figure like that to come in and bring that sense of a club without the kind of Richard Cockrell, do as I say or jump kind of thing.
Yeah, and like Lisa says, the stories about him and sort of the last days of Worcester in particular are great and kind of really inspirational, the way he steered everyone through that. And I'd be interested to see how it works with not as much adversity. Like Edinburgh being crap last year is not the same as Worcester getting wound up. Do you know what I mean? And so it would be good to see them have a bit of club spirit, but the club spirit that Steve Diamond's brought to his last couple of clubs has been a sort of like, everyone's against us, everything's going terribly, we're just going to fight it out because this could be our last chance sort of type thing. And it's not like that for Edinburgh. It really is just like, we were thinking last year, we need to be better this year. And that's a different sort of motivation.
Everyone is against.
Oh yeah, and everyone's definitely
everyone else. Everyone
I think both. I was going to say that the entire kind of Glasgow and Edinburgh fan base is and clubs are built on the whole thing that they think that each other's discriminated against by the SRU and doesn't get enough funds. So that's the whole basis of Scottish pro rugby is based on the fact that neither side
in the
thinks
Glasgow
that they're
case,
the ones.
it's true though.
And Edinburgh fans, although to be fair, Craig, you do have too many scrum halves now, surely. I mean, you've got Scott, although Scott Steele signing on as a back row.
Well, he's a utility player, quite like someone who'll cross between the. He's a bit like Johnny. He'll cross between the yawning gap that is the forwards to the backs. So I think it's. I'm more concerned, but maybe it's concerned, maybe it's a little bit nervous, maybe it's excitedly nervous, but it may be that you find Richard Cockrell stays on and takes on the. For the next year or so and takes on the whole director of rugby role. And then you've got Mike Blair who runs the team and coaches the team. And so, because the only thing that Mike Blair kind of said that he said in his interviews that may not have that happen is the fact that he hated the telling someone that they weren't in the squad that week. So it's an interesting one. Because I don't see where the coach comes from, or the coach that we want or we feel we deserve comes from now at this point in the season, unless Michael Checker is going to take on a fifth team to coach all at the same time, So I'm unsure. So
unless the plan is to wait to see who does badly at the World Cup and try and get a big name.
Who gets fired at the World Cup?
Who gets fired after the first round? We'll have them.
Oh no, it's going to be Gatland. No.
This time last season, we didn't think that Franco Smith was the coach that we deserved. I remember sitting here in June of last year going, what is going on? How have we ended up with Franco Smith? I thought we were getting a proper coach. And we are now 24 hours out from a European final. So, the coach that you want or the coach you think you deserve is not always the coach you need, I would say.
They're not having Ryan Wilson. They're not getting Ryan Wilson in as a coach, though. That was a very subtle Batman joke there. For anyone who missed it.
I liked it a lot.
Lisa, have we ever
I think Batman would be a great coach.
Have we ever established your loyalties to either one of the pro sides on the podcast yet? I know you're wearing a Toulon top tonight, which might give us a clue.
No, I'm Edinburgh born and raised, and I have a few good friends who play for Edinburgh. So I feel if I went to Glasgow, I'd probably get shunned and
to win
stuff.
By all them. Watch playoff games, enjoy yourself, all those things.
Watch the French mince you.
Great fun. Hey, I went to the Toulon game where Edinburgh won. It was a delightful experience. This is a memento.
I was there, yeah.
I'm reminiscing about the time a Scottish team beat Toulon, so that is the reason I'm wearing the top.
Yeah, of course
it is. It is. But yeah, no, I'm Edinburgh through and through.
It's fine.
Some reason.
I'm completely apathetic. I'm just side with whichever one's more funny to me at the time of recording the podcast. And Johnny's on his own. Johnny's on his own tonight. What did you say, Johnny?
You're always upset about the Border Reivers.
I am. I'm still not over the Border Reivers going. That's it. That was after that pro rugby was dead to me. Okay, look, we've had our first complaint of the evening, and we've got somebody saying that we're spending too long speaking about Edinburgh and not enough time talking about the fact that Glasgow are in a European final. So I don't know, have we talked much yet about the Rugby World Cup referee selection? Have we done that in the last couple of weeks?
We haven't really, no.
Lisa? I mean, it's a strange selection. A lot of people on kind of Twitter are saying that there's obviously Joy Neville's in there as a TMO. It feels a little bit like, well, not a little bit. It is a missed opportunity to not have more female representation, given the number of female referees now refereeing international men's matches. The fact that I think there's a suggestion that Holly Davidson's potentially going to end up refereeing in the WXV 1, 2, or 3, which will run kind of I think towards the end of the World Cup or towards the end of it, won't it? But that feels like a huge missed opportunity for World Rugby to, like, even as touch judges, not to have more representation when we already have it.
Yeah, I think it massive is. I mean, you look at the female referees who have been flourishing and really at the top of their game, and obviously Holly's up there. You got Sarah Cox is up there as well, and for them not to be involved, even like you say, even in an AR sort of a role, is a massive missed opportunity. I get that obviously WXV is happening around at the same time, but then why don't we just grow the base of really good, high level, high quality referees through that, and then let the top ones keep progressing so it builds that path for them to continue to follow on to. I think it is a little bit short-sighted of them to just, only have Joy doing a TMO sort of role. There should definitely be more opportunities for the women in there, because I think they've earned their spot. And you even speak to some of the guys who have had Holly and Sarah as referees, and they all sing their praises, saying, well, actually, you know what, we knew exactly where we stood. They spoke really well with us, and you know what, they refereed the game really well. So I think they more than deserved an opportunity and a shot to be part of that refereeing team. It just, unfortunately, now we're going to have to wait another 4 years to see if that changes again.
Yeah, I mean, Johnny, it's not some of the names on the list. You look at it and you go, just looking at the names, it's unarguable that the like Sarah Cox and Holly Davidson are better candidates and run games better than some of the people that are going to the World Cup as top profile referees.
Yeah, and it's not close either. Some of them, I think, are there because they're people that have always refereed top level test matches, but that doesn't mean that they're good at it. I don't think I've ever seen anything really controversial with Holly in the middle of the game. Even when she sent somebody off in a World Cup final, everyone was a bit like, well, yeah, of course she did, because it was a red card. Whereas I could pick 3 or 4 of the referees that are on that World Cup docket and could give you 5 games that they've done where they've made a hugely controversial and usually not very accurate decision. So why are they still getting these opportunities?
I mean,
Carl Dixon.
I was deliberately trying not to name any, but that would be one of them, yes.
Yeah. Craig, you're shaking your head.
Yeah, because Holly Davison not going to the World Cup, and then Carl Dixon, who thinks it's perfectly correct that Sean Maitland can not only knee someone in the chest but also slam them in the face with his elbows and get it's just a penalty, and continually forgetting his cards. He found his cards once, I think, and then all of Exeter decided to want to throw him in the sea. But it's just Holly is one of the best referees out there. She should be out, and I just feel it's pretty rubbish. So that was me trying to stay on the fence, but it didn't work.
You tried your best.
I tried my best, yeah.
Yeah. So in other news, we've in a shock move, a white man with a background in financial services is now the chair of the Scottish Rugby Board. Who saw that one coming, Johnny?
I was shocked as everybody else. I'm also going to have to go get another bottle of wine if you're going to carry on with this nonsense, because we're scraping the barrel for you.
See, the moment this is classic, Johnny. We talk from it. We bring up representation, at senior level within Scottish rugby, and Johnny's like, I'm having none of that. I'm off for more
You're
wine.
stitching me up here, Cameron.
It's
'cause
very
you know
Tory.
what you're up to.
I'm not sitting here to this woke nonsense about having fair representation. I'm off for my wine.
You're stitching me up because you know exactly what you're doing.
He puts a hoodie on for the podcast, but he usually wears these chinos. He's looking for a.
I've got
he's looking
chinos
for
and a polo
nice-
shirt on today, Craig. 'cause I've come
He's
to
looking,
work.
he's looking for a cushy job at the SRU, you know.
He's got his he says he's a Glasgow fan, but he's on the Glasgow scarf is one of those posh tartan ones that the guys in the boxes wear.
Yeah.
I'm going to go back down the road and break my internet again. This is nonsense.
Okay, Johnny, let's talk about Glasgow. Is there a Glasgow game on Friday?
Yes. We've got a European Cup final tomorrow night, Cameron. I don't know if it's passed by
Have
your
you?
attention.
I mean,
It's
you
the
say
Challenge Cup, but it still
I was
counts.
going to say you say a European Cup final. Let's call it what it is, Johnny. What was it?
Like, I've made my feelings about the Challenge Cup very
Hang on,
clear
what was
for a
it?
long
What was it
time,
when we were in
but I'm still excited.
the semi-final? What was it? It was the Diddy Cup, was it?
The Diddy
Or was
Cup.
it,
That's what John Anderson used to call it, wasn't it? When Ember were in
Yeah,
it.
yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Like, I don't feel much more highly about the Challenge Cup, but I am still excited. It's still a nice thing to be getting to do.
So you get a star on your top. I understand. Leinster are very keen on this to point this out today. You get a wee star, and like being a good boy in school when you get your star chart. You get a star on your shirt if you win a European Cup final. What do you get for the Challenge Cup final?
It's like a little Mickey Mouse logo. Like the pin badges that Disney employees wear.
Yeah.
It's still
Is
a
the
European
reason-
final. I don't
Look,
care.
it's still the European final. Fine.
Yes.
Look, to a certain extent, Glasgow kind of got stuck at quarterfinals in the big cup, in the proper cup. And I think this isn't me being horrible or mean to Glasgow, Johnny, but I wonder whether or not this will benefit Glasgow in getting to a fight. I've done the URC finals, and as you know, as Andrew Porter says today, that they don't matter, right? Nobody cares about the Pro 14 or the URC finals. It only matters about stars in your jersey. But getting to a final from a psychological point of view, longer term, I think will do Glasgow some good because they have had that kind of thing on the back of getting to quarterfinals and then getting knocked out by Saracen every season.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I was actually thinking about this earlier, thinking about the URC and how much of an idiot Andrew Porter is. Because I think if Glasgow had beat Munster in the quarterfinals, I don't think we'd have beaten Leinster last week because Glasgow view like Leinster, Saracens, Toulouse as just like teams that are a tier above us. And that's what we now need to work towards. Now that we have got to a final of the Challenge Cup, we need to start looking at the teams who are at the sharp end of the Champions Cup and think, how do we go about beating them? And we don't have the sort of emotional edge that Munster did to go out and beat them last weekend. That's what we need to get to, is we need to start thinking about, like, these are the teams that we're competing with now, rather than the teams at the sharp end of the Challenge Cup. Like, it is exciting. I'm very pleased to be in the final. I'm looking forward to it. But beating the Lions, beating Scarlets, beating the Dragons to get to a final is not the same as competing in games against Toulouse or Exeter or Saracens or Leinster or whoever. And that's got to be like, now that Glasgow have proved that we can get to the top of the Challenge Cup and we can get into the quarters of the URC and that sort of thing, now we need to work out how we're going to prove that we can go another level above that.
What does it? I mean, yeah, Lisa, you'll probably been on a couple of cup runs. Kind of, how does that kind of work psychologically? Do you think to a team to get that far? Does that kind of give them a boost and get that kind of thought over the back of we're perennial quarterfinalists, so we can't get any further or progress?
Yeah, I think it's like you said, it's getting that monkey off the back of like, here we've earned this shot, we've earned this opportunity. It's literally a case of now or never. They literally have nothing to lose because they've never been in this position before. So to be up against Toulon, who obviously you know their successes of years gone by, but again they're also a team that maybe hasn't been the most successful in recent times either. But I think Glasgow will be feeling massively confident. I know they got beat by Munster, but maybe that was probably a good thing in a way, because having that bit of a reality check of, okay, right, we need to now kick on a little bit more. If we're going to be playing Toulon, who are a step above that in a one-off European Challenge Cup final, it's maybe given them the edge that they needed in training up until now. But I think, when you know it's a final, it's a whole different kettle of fish, because you're riding on the emotions, you're riding on the fact of, at the end of this, we could be lifting something and we could be doing something really, really special that no one else has ever done for this club. So I think it's an exciting prospect to be the first in the history of that. So I think, it'll hold a different sort of emotional charge, I think, going into it.
It's interesting. Craig, from both Scottish pro sides, there has been a lack of consistency. When you look at something like the Irish teams, for example, the Glasgow won the it was a Pro 14, was it Pro 12 at the time? Was it Pro 14?
12, yeah.
Pro 12 at the time.
Pro 12.
Yeah.
Edinburgh have hit a couple of, have hit a couple of finals occasionally, kind of Europe wise back in the day, but neither side's really hit that level of consistency in the same way as the Irish teams, and it feels like that's the next stage we need to get to, whether it's the Challenge Cup or the higher cup, the Challenged Cup, or whatever they call it, the Super Cup. It doesn't matter. It's about doing this more consistently rather than going from a finalist one year to mid-table URC next year to being towards the bottom and then back up again. Both teams need to find some level of consistency where this is much more regular occurrence.
Yeah, well, that's where they got to when it came to the Pro 12. There were semi-finalists and finalists a couple of times before they won it. And that's where I've got to. And I think they've had a good start, because I think Franco Smith has really brought in belief again to the squad. Because no matter what anybody says, I'm going to say this, and please hear me out. It's not maybe as rock star a squad as Edinburgh have, as in it's a squad that have got very, very good players in it, a couple of British and Irish Lions, etc. But Edinburgh have got this superstar squad that are meant to be playing everyone off the park, and they're not. Whereas Glasgow, hang on,
is that you saying that the SRU do spend more on Edinburgh than Glasgow?
No, I'm not saying that. Maybe next season, you never know. What we're finding with Glasgow, though, is that Glasgow have kind of come out of the depths of hell, I suppose, and gone, actually, we do believe we can do something, and they've found they've recruited quite well in that they've brought in players that we didn't really expect to make a huge, like bringing in Richie Gray. Now, no matter what anybody says about Richie Gray is a phenomenal player when it comes to reading lineouts, etc. But everyone was kind of going, why have they re-signed Richie Gray? Is it not about time he was finished? He was retiring. Is he coming back to play for a couple of years at Glasgow just to hang his boots up and say he's back in Scotland? And all of a sudden, they've got this player who looks like he's reinvigorated himself. And whether that's Franco Smith or whether that's a team that's around him, or he's been allowed to fly a little bit and play as he wishes to play, everything seems to have aligned. So if they win tomorrow, it's an ideal sort of peak of the pyramid. The problem you have, and just as you've said, is making sure that they continue to do that, because obviously they're going to the European Cup next year, and European Cup, dare I say, look at Leinster. They've got, the Borg square cube behind them, and they brought out what they would say is a second string team, but the second string team would probably beat everybody in their wake apart from a really fired up Munster. And they expected to win. Glasgow don't have that. So I don't know. I don't know if we need more money in it, or I don't know if throwing money at it is going to do the job. We get into these old questions, don't we?
Well, you look at the Glasgow side that they've chosen, Johnny. I think you've probably got Fraser Brown, Jamie Batty. I'm trying to look at some, the Ferguson brothers have obviously been around for a while, but this is a fairly kind of new this isn't a Glasgow squad that's been around for a few seasons now. There are kind of although Hugh Jones has come back, it is kind of a more recent squad, and maybe that's been the problem in the past. That you've had the likes of Ryan Wilson and these guys that have hung around for a while, and newer players haven't had the chance. So unlike Leinster, where they can, they can bring somebody in from an academy and they slot straight in, they've almost got a conveyor belt of talent. What maybe Glasgow and to an extent Edinburgh haven't done in the past is have a rebuilding cycle, a proper rebuilding cycle. They've tried to do the Leinster thing of we just carry on until guys retire, or we just move them on, or they move on naturally, and then the younger players don't get any exposure and they're all of a sudden expected to come and step in the squad. So I think maybe that's the thing, that it's more having that rebuilding cycle built into what we're doing rather than trying to replicate the Irish conveyor belt model.
Yeah, and I think what Glasgow have done really well this season, and particularly with tomorrow's team, is it's a good mix of players that have been around for a while, that know what the club's about, that are used to the sort of ethos, I suppose, of the club, with people that they've brought in and have obviously gelled really well and have bought right into it and kind of freshened it up a little bit. So somebody like Sione Vailanu is a really good example, who's been phenomenal this year. And I think he kind of really came in quietly. Nobody was expecting massive things from him, but he seems to have just like got stuck in straight away and bought right into the whole thing. Him, Matt Fagerson and Dempsey is a great back row. Like a back row good enough to keep Rory Darge on the bench is quite something this year, because even in losing to Munster a couple of weeks ago, he was brilliant. So yeah, Vailanu's been really good in sort of coming in, mixing in really quickly. Hugh Jones has come back in and kind of slipped straight back into what he was doing before. And then around them, there is people like Xander Fagerson, who's been around for ages, doing it for ages. Scott Cummings tomorrow will be really important. And it's a good mix of people who are kind of traditional Glasgow players who have been here for ages, who are getting to be the backbone of the team, with new players who have come in and become really important really quickly.
And Lisa, you've got your Toulon on top on, so I'm expecting you to know the full squad. I'll be testing you on it. I'm only joking. It's
Thank God.
It's almost like that top was just a troll move or something.
I knew all the important people. That was fine. I'd been practicing my French pronunciation, so we're all good.
Just Sergio.
I was going to say all the famous French names like Alain Nuesi, Colby, Dupree, Paris is almost there. I mean, it's Argentinian, but it's not.
Bigger, don't forget.
Oh, Bigger, of course. That famous
sad tomorrow. My most important motivation for Glasgow winning tomorrow is to see Dan Bigger be sad.
That's just perennial Dan Bigger, though. He always looks sad, apart from when he's winning. Apart from at the end of a game. But we'll not cast our minds back to those horrible memories. It's not. But Lisa, I think the thing was Toulon, although they were once the kind of big European superpower and they had all the money, like the Real Madrid of kind of world rugby, they've still got some pretty good, still a pretty decent team that's lined up to my Chelsea and Colby. You got Olivon. I mean, Mathieu Bastereau, who we were saying on the group chat today, I thought he was still playing in France. And we don't know if he's listed as a prop or a centre, so that'll be interesting.
Toulon is in France, Cameron. Do you mean America?
I meant America. But that's still, and Cornell Dupree's in there, Brian Allen Uesi's in there. It's not there's at least two players in there who will know Glasgow a little bit, although maybe sometimes has been in the Scottish system.
Yeah, there's gonna be a lot of familiarity there. Like you said before, yeah, they used to have all the names and all the money in the world, but they've had to kind of go back and start from scratch. Like we said, that Leinster are able to do it, and that their academy set up and they're able to churn it out. They've had to kind of go back to that in certain aspects and actually rely a little bit more on their French players, like Bryce Serran and Gross coming in as well. Like they've had to go back to that because the money just isn't there anymore, and because of the push that the French rugby union are having about we've got to be seen to be having more French players in squads. but they still have that little bit of stardust in there with going, you say, down that backbone of, Parisi, Dan Biggar, Cheslin, Colby, to name just like 3 of them, and they're going to be like very influential players. But I think they're going to have to play different from what we've seen of Toulon of old. But I think the biggest thing is going to be a battle of the back rows. Like Johnny said earlier, the Glasgow back row is very strong, and then to have someone like Rory Darge come off the bench, there's going to be no let off. So it'll be interesting to see how the likes of Olivon and Cornell Dupree play with Parisi as well, just doing Parisi things and being on a completely different plane of rugby compared to everyone else, and then completely change that up and probably have Bastereau slotting in an number 8 at some point as well. I think it'll be a very, very physical upfront battle, hence probably why Glasgow have gone for the 6-2 split, because they are expecting a bruising affair up front, and that's arguably where probably most of Toulon's strength is. So yeah, it's going to be more of an upfront battle, which is probably not what we associate with Toulon.
And that's, Craig, that's maybe the worry for Glasgow, because that has been a problem for Glasgow in the past, that physicality in the front, in the forwards. That's where they've struggled with the likes of Munster in the past. They have kind of had a tendency to be bullied off the park.
Yeah, both Glasgow and Edinburgh are very similar in the fact that they want their back rowers to be hunters. They obviously, we had the old adage of the usual cry of the Scottish Rugby fan that Matt Fagerson wasn't big enough to be a number 8 and all this garbage. Now that Violano's there, I'm hoping I said that correctly. He's going to give a lot of go forward, along with the aged Australian. He's going to give a lot of go forward as well. So, Toulon are going to have their hands full. But on the other side of things, you've got, Villiers is back on the wing, along with Colby on the other side. Now, if Biggar's smart enough, he's going to get the ball out to the wings to get these guys alight and see if they can do some damage to Glasgow. So I would fear the wing. I definitely fear, no matter what anyone says, I would fear Dan Biggar, and I'd also fear the 2 wingers on Toulon's roster as well.
More scared of Gavin Villiers than I think of anybody else. Like, Villiers is just one of these players where anything could happen. And yeah, when you're in a back 3 with Cheslin Colby, then you're probably never going to be the star attraction, but he scares me.
It's their finishing ability is ridiculous. Like, they get given a little chance, a little gap, they will take it, and they'll make their ability to make something out of nothing is, like you say, is utterly frightening as a defensive unit, because you cannot switch off and you can't give them little opportunities, because they will literally just run riot.
Yeah, I think Domingo Moyote is going to be really important. His kicking's got to be absolutely on the money. Because
is that
Villiers and Colby, if you get an off-target kick, will punish you.
But he's not played much for Glasgow, has he, this season?
Not massively, no. To be fair, anytime he's played, he's looked really good. I think did he start against the Dragons, I think, and has come off the bench a few times. I am glad that we went with him, because I think his kicking from hand is probably a little bit more accurate nowadays than meatballs, and that is going to be really important. Like, you don't want to go loose against Toulon, because they'll absolutely destroy you if they get an opportunity. So
I'd even say, like, going on from that, I think even George Horn's kicking's got to be pretty on point as well, because arguably, say, last game against Munster, it was quite wayward, and I think he was playing a bit too quick for everyone else to kind of catch up on. So I think his box kicking is going to be super important, and alongside the chase afterwards, be great. Yeah, send a shooter, but everyone else in behind that has to be as connected as humanly possible. Because, like you say, Cheslin Colby sniffs a gap, finds a mismatch in there with maybe some front 5 in the middle. He's, waving past as he goes, and, is probably under the post somewhere.
So, Johnny, how are you feeling after that Do you feel positive?
I'm trying really hard to. I am worried about the back three. I think Lisa's right about the back row being a key, and I think if the back row is the key battleground, that Glasgow have got it, because Olivon is a great player. Like, there's no doubt that he is a world-class talent, but I think that Dempsey and Matt Fagerson are better than Cornell Dupria and Sergio Parisse. So I'm sorry, I love Sergio as much as the next person, but he's also 350 years old. And Jack Dempsey will absolutely bulldoze him.
Does Jack Dempsey know about the same age?
Get away. I'm not having this with you again.
Hard paper round.
Not as hard a paper round as Brian Allen and Races had.
Absolutely.
The oldest young man in the world.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
We're all going to be. You've got guys that play with Brian Allen Racy in their 80s, and at that point he'll look young.
Benjamin Button.
Maybe he just won't age.
Yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting game. I'm really, really excited. I think when we found out the teams, I thought Toulon was a pretty scary undertaking, but actually now I've seen the actual 223s, it's going to be really tough. But I didn't look at those two and go, oh, Jesus, we're absolutely out of a chance here. I think Glasgow have got a chance to win.
I just hope that that it is a good game. Obviously, I'm looking for Toulon to win, but no, Glasgow to win. But the issue, what I'm concerned about is Toulon turn up as a typical French team and you just go nuts and throw it all away. And the problem we have is that a lot of the French teams nowadays have kind of banished that demon. But Toulon, unfortunately, have said, no, we love that demon. We want to keep that demon. So they'll either turn up and absolutely give Glasgow a run for their money, or they'll absolutely throw it away with a wild, scything elbow to someone's face or something like that.
I wouldn't rule out a red card fairly early. I couldn't tell you who it's going to be for, but it's definitely, that's two team sheets that have got a couple of red cards.
I was going to say Fraser Brown's on the park, so and he's got a new contract as well, so he's feeling comfortable.
What better way to seeing a new contract than a red card in a European final?
It's memorable.
Yeah, exactly.
It's got. Do you know what this game's got all over it? It's in the first 5 minutes. Cornell Dupria rockets over a breakdown and goes shoulder first into Matt Fagerson's head, so Xander pulls him off the breakdown and pummels him and gets himself sent off.
I'm just waiting on. I'll tell you what. I'm just waiting on Jamie Batty having an absolute superstar of a game and showing John that the big juice can start a European final.
Because I've got the bat for Jamie Batty a lot this year. When John starts talking his nonsense about him, I would love him to have a brilliant game tomorrow.
Man of the match, right there. I'm calling it now. Jamie Batty, man of the match.
Jamie Batty, European Cup final, man of the match. I'm glad that Anderson's having a week off because we deserve it.
Wonderful. Okay, has there been any other news from the world of Scottish rugby that I've missed this week? Because I feel like we've covered a lot of it, and I know I haven't been here for the last couple of weeks.
While I was without internet last week, did you talk about the devastating news that Sam Johnson's leaving Glasgow?
I don't think it had been announced by that point.
Absolutely heartbroken by that.
I don't know if Ian Hayes absolutely devastated. It's a surprise. I think it was a surprise that he's gone.
It was,
and have we found out where he's going to?
Nothing yet.
No, not yet. No.
Yeah, it feels strange because he's still, in essence, because although Scotland don't have a squad in the same way that England do, he's still like. In my mind, he's still kind of Scotland's kind of second choice 12.
Yeah,
so it feels very odd for him to be going to like all of a sudden. Oh, by the way, Sam Johnson's leaving, Lisa. That kind of feels like a bit okay. That's kind of out of the blue.
To be fair, I just don't think he fitted in the Franco way of things. To be honest, like we spoke, like he's completely revolutionised the team culture there in terms of he's looking for guys who want to work hard, and that is expected. There's like a minimum standard of you will hit these levels. If you do not, you will not play for me. And I think he's maybe just not flavour of the month really under Franco. And I think he's, come to the right time of like, actually, I'm going to go cut my teeth somewhere else and see if that will then potentially help my Scotland chances. Because when he needs to be playing and have some form of clips to, have Gregor phone him up and be like, here, do I come along and have a couple of games?
I'm sure we've read interviews in the past, Craig, about, and I think the interesting thing with Sam Johnson, when he's spoken in the past, is he's said, I think, that coaches sometimes perceive him as lazy because he's quite a laid back kind of guy. I know I've managed people before, and I've had my big boss going, look, that person's no good. They're always kind of like sloping around and they don't look like they're ever doing anything. I'm like, well, that's my hardest worker. Just because they're laid back, they're kind of like got their feet up on the desk and don't look like they're doing anything. Actually, they're working really hard. And I wonder whether he falls into that trap a little bit of, if you've got a coach like Franco Smith who maybe demands certain standards, but you're a more laid back kind of guy who doesn't visibly look like they're doing a lot.
Yeah,
might count against you a little bit.
Yeah, that's true. But is Franco Smith doing his best to get the best out of him? And that's the question. Because if you look at Sam Johnson, and fair enough, I was one of his harshest critics when we used to talk about him playing for Glasgow and playing for Scotland. But actually, he performed incredibly well for a good 12 to 16 months sort of period within the Scotland squad and for Glasgow. He's maybe been tarnished a bit with the Danny Wilson squad style hoodoo that seems to be going around. But then Franco kept he's just re-signed Fraser Brown, so he's obviously, Fraser Brown shows him something that he likes, and Sam Johnson hasn't. But unless Sam Johnson's decided that he wants to move and he wants somewhere fresh, that could be it as well. So
yeah, I mean, the thing is, Johnny, I wonder if he kind of perhaps loses out a little bit in kind of the way that Gregor Townsend has almost come back full circle as to where he started as Scotland coach. That he started with kind of like, I want two playmakers at 10 and 12. Had the whole had Finn Russell and Pete Horn to start with at the start of the Gregor Townsend era. Then that wasn't quite working. So then we had Sam Johnson come in as kind of the crash ball, hitting it up off Finn. And that worked really well in a few games. And now we're right back at, okay, we've got Sione at 12, kind of kicking and distributing again. And I wonder if kind of that's what Sam Johnson loses out a little bit on.
Yeah. He's never been a huge playmaker, Sammy J. But that hard runner makes yards when everything goes wrong in the midfield sort of 12. He's been really, really, really successful at. And as much as Sione is good at that, Sammy was brilliant at it. And there will be games that Scotland have to play, probably at the World Cup, where you're going to want someone that can do that. So to be losing him from Glasgow and have no idea where he's going 3 months before the World Cup makes me wonder, are we going to be wishing that we had him come September time? Maybe he's going to turn up somewhere and play his way back into the squad. You never know. But he does offer something a little bit different to what the other centres do. So I'd be keeping a close eye on where he lands up.
He's not in the Scotland squad, though, the World Cup training squad, is he?
Not in this one, no.
No.
He's not on, and neither's Hutch, which is, a bit strange.
Yeah. Gone are the days of wild World Cup calls for Scotland. Like, who was it? Who was the lad that Vern Cotter basically signed for Scotland, but no other pro team? He played in the World Cup warm-ups.
Oh, no, that's not who I thought it was.
He played a couple. I don't think he actually. He ended up playing for Scotland Sevens, and he didn't. I don't think he ever. He was on the Edinburgh squad for a while. Then he played centre for Glasgow in a couple of games. Then went on the Sevens tour.
Was it Nick something?
No, I can't remember. He played more games for Melrose, I think, than he ever did for Glasgow or Edinburgh.
You make me think it's Nick McLennan, but I don't think it's him.
It's not making it. It's really irritating. It's really annoying because he played really well in the games he did play in the World Cup warm-ups. He actually played reasonably well.
Well, I was going to say, I forgot to say, I did notice that Nathan Macbeth is on the bench for Glasgow, and
Hugh Blake. That's who I'm thinking.
Blake, there we go.
Oh, yes, I
Hugh
remember
Blake.
him.
There you go. There's
Yes.
an answer. Pub quiz answer at some point.
Glasgow have gone big bench again for tomorrow night. Slightly smaller than the last time, because the last time we went big bench, it was with JP Dupree on the bench, and this week he's starting and Richie Gray's on the bench. So slightly smaller, but still big.
One thing I do want to know, and I haven't had a chance to listen back to the last 2 weeks of the podcast, is did we talk about Greg Laidlaw's retirement?
I haven't had a chance to talk about it yet.
No,
let's talk about it.
I don't know if I'm ready.
A little bit. That's not enough, Craig. It's simply not enough. A little bit is not enough.
Listen, he's not here, so let's just blame John Anderson as much as
I've
we
been
can.
checking the titles. I was expecting. I looked at the titles of the podcast and I thought he's not properly addressed Greg Laidlaw retiring from rugby. It's outrageous for this podcast.
I honestly I don't know if I'm ready to do it yet.
It's too emotional. It's too emotional.
It is
too soon.
Well, the thing is,
Greg.
he's going into coaching, so maybe he's coming back to save Edinburgh.
Oh,
And they
can you
just
imagine?
don't.
Yeah, because
announce
actually,
it.
what you want to do now, you've just realised that the last Scotland scrum half didn't work out as a coach, is to then move on to just the next one and see how that goes.
Hey, listen,
You should definitely do that.
Don't you dare throw any shade on Mr. Greg.
I'm not.
Don't
I'm
you
not. I'm throwing
dare.
shade on Edinburgh.
You will have an entire nation come at you.
I'm not throwing shade on Edinburgh. I love
like Johnny's scared of that. He's got the Irish and Welsh and the South Africans. Let me think. The only thing that's limiting him having the French at him is because he doesn't speak a lot of French. So
I could translate my tweet about how I've always hated Toulon into French if you want.
Oh, crack on, Johnny.
You
Start.
Toulon.
We'll do. I tell you what, we'll do a Patreon. We're going to do a Patreon special just about Greg Laidlaw over the summer. That's what we'll do. That's how we'll address it.
I'll look my black suit out.
Yeah. Still on it. Genuinely, I think should be remembered as one of Scotland's greatest players. Not appreciated in his time. That's what I'd come. That's what I'd come. Yeah.
I tell you what, he got a hell. No matter what anybody says about his pace of ruck ball, he got Scotland a fair few wins with his boot, and he should be celebrated a huge amount. I
still maintain that the Lions would have won the third test against New Zealand if Laidlaw had come off the bench.
100%.
Yeah. Anyway, we'll park that. We'll do a proper full tribute to Mr. Greg over the summer. That's the end of the podcast this week. I hope all the Glasgow fans feel like we gave them a proper go, a proper good, analysis. In the end, it's almost like I was trying to get people to listen to the full podcast, Johnny. You see how it's all about monetizing, getting people to listen to the ads in the middle section, right? So people had to sit through all the other stuff to get to the Glasgow thing. They'll all be fast forwarding.
Well,
to get
do you know
there,
what?
But it'll help our stats for our listen through rates.
If that's what you want to do, Craig gave me possibly the worst opinion I've ever heard about anything earlier today, and I'm keeping that for Patreon.
Right. On that note, thank you everybody for listening. We'll be back next week. If Glasgow win, we'll talk in detail about the appointment of another white man from the financial background for this chair of the Scottish Rugby Board. If Glasgow lose, then we'll spend an entire hour talking about the game and how wonderful Toulon are.
I think another bus is about to crash into our internet exchange. Sorry.
I'll send you a dongle, Johnny.
You got in trouble for that the last time.
And on that note, it's goodbye from me and goodbye from Johnny, Lisa, and Craig. Bye all.
Bye all.
Bye.
Excellent silence. See, that'll be an easy edit.
Yeah.
They've changed.
I've got a like parents open afternoon.